Welcome back. So we begin with domestic issues, and very importantly so, because it has to do with security. And, you know, just as the Senate was debating the factors responsible for the Yelwata killings yesterday, reports were coming through about an engagement, you know, that the Nigerian military had with insurgents, of course, which led to the death of scores of bandits, according to reports, but also some officers paid the supreme price. And that gets, you know, naturally everyone concerned. Why are our armed forces, our men of the armed forces, becoming increasingly susceptible to attacks by insurgents? How armed, you know, how much equipment do they have to continue to tackle the fight against insecurity? Let's put these questions through to an expert who should know, as Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya joins us on the program this morning. Mr. Adekoya is a security, intelligence, and surveillance expert. Thank you so much for coming through at this particular point in time. When you see, you know, when such reports come through, you know, what questions should we be asking? How worried does it get you?
Okay, again, we're here to empathize with the families who have lost a loved one. The sad reality is that when you engage in an operation, these things can happen. We're not immune to it. In the spat between Israel and Iran, although Iran was dealt a severe blow, Israel did lose personnel also. The U.S. also has this experience. So we must also remember that the military has operations across 31 states. It's a bit of when you have any engagement, you know, and bullets fly, these things can happen. So it's sad to come on set every now and then, and knowing that it will not be the last time you will be called to come and talk about something like this. And I did say that during the Yelwata case, that it won't be the last, that the presidential directive given by Mr. President would not change anything immediately on the ground, because it will require at least another 1 month to fully mobilize to even begin to shape what an operation would look like. So you're correct. Incident happened in Chibok. The military successfully repelled that attack. Then the Niger-Kaduna case, and then the case in Zamfara. So what comes to mind is that perhaps our law enforcement are beginning to take a bit of a forward foot to trying to address the issue. Unfortunately, this thing is like a contact sport. You know, everybody has a plan until you get a punch in the face. But on a balance of resilience and who can outlast, I mean, it's an asymmetric attack. Nigeria has enough resources to withstand these incidents, and I do hope that eventually, you know, God will keep our people fighting, and eventually we'll deal with these issues. So that's my first.
You know, Jeffrey talks about the theory of the balance of terror, you know, that when these criminals go to areas where they know that they can get away with their acts, then, you know, it's easy for them to go in and do what they carry out their mission successfully. You know, but there are areas where they cannot be such, you know, just as successful. And one would think that, you know, a military formation or a garrison or a stronghold of the military should be a place where they should be afraid, you know, of going into and be successful. So the question is, why are our men of the armed forces susceptible to such attack? Where is there no backup when they face an onslaught from insurgents? And this is not the first experience.
Yeah. So these are crimes of opportunity, but importantly, I think we underestimate the complexity of the issues we are dealing with. We're dealing with people who are very nuanced in military strategy. And what in the Niger-Kaduna incident was they were attacking the forward operating bases of the Nigerian army, meaning that that's not the major attack. That looks like a shaping attack. So if you can degrade those forward operating bases, then whatever is to come next will come next. In asymmetric warfare, that's the way it goes. You have a very regimented, drilled, and large army like the Nigerian army, it's not possible for the Nigerian army to fully protect even its supply lines to every fob that it has, or to even fully protect every fob that it has. Remember that Nigeria has over 920 or 30,000 square kilometers of land mass. So the land mass is big. Nigeria is quite big. So between FOBs and between formations, you have opportunities, if you know what you are doing, to conduct this kind of attack. Remember that you've had even the CDS come out to complain that some of the locals are giving this assailant intelligence. So they know sometimes how many personnel are there. If they are trained enough, they know the weapons and the level of ammunition that they have, they can rough a guess. And if they are going to attack to be successful, they also conduct surveillance, So once they have the information and the odd seems to favor them, of course they will launch an attack, And so these are the things that happen. But kudos to the Nigerian army. The Chibok attack was repelled, successfully repelled. It's not all gloom and doom. It's the military, it's the police. They are to engage with criminal insurgent groups, and unfortunately, sometimes in the line of duty, some of our colleagues pay the ultimate sacrifice. So it's sad, but it comes with the territory and the line of work.
Do you also feel that there are saboteurs within the formation of the military that could be mischievous elements in working hand in hand with these guys for them to record the kind of success? I remember that, I think yourself and I think Chamberlain were the ones that had that interview with the naval officer that talked to Colonel, I think Kunle Allow-Me, where he was talking about some ethnic lines and camaraderie between people of common interest beyond the military interest that have access to military formation. Remember the NDA incident and all of that.
Yeah.
So how does affinity with religion and affinity with saboteurs kind of help these guys to mess things up? Because I'm talking from intelligence point of view now.
Yeah. You are asking a very complex question.
That's why you're here to simplify
Yeah, but
it.
we may not have all the time to answer it. So yes, there's some of that issue. I give you a real life scenario. If you look at Kano, Kano is in the northwest. And Kano, as it were, seems to be immune from the craze in the northwest. From Sokoto to Kano, you see, you just stop at the point Kano. Why is Kano not experiencing the carnage we're seeing in the northwest? Because the people in Kano understand that Kano is a major market hub in West Africa. They cannot afford, and Kano is open for business. So Kano cannot afford to get itself entangled in some of these issues. Kebbi was a bright light also at a time because they had a very strong local security initiative that were very decisive in acting. But some of those were degraded a bit, just politically speaking, and then Kebbi had some issues. If you recall the attack on GB Foods factory in Kebbi. I've also seen some of our politicians come out to say that, for example, the governor of Borno State did report that over 300,000 repentant Boko Haram members have been received. Now, what changed in the dynamics? What changed in the dynamics is that, to some extent, the Kanuri element of Boko Haram became a bit spooked by the time the Al-Bawani-led faction brought in foreign terrorists into Nigeria. So it became clear that if certain things was not done, that whole space will be overrun by foreigners. So it made more sense to beat a retreat and come back into the fold and work with the Nigerian army. I don't want to go into the sentiments of the challenges that people face operationally, because there are some of those challenges. And again, we're all in Nigeria. We've seen those reports of saboteurs arrested for supplying weapons, informants supplying information. So the retinue of arrests made. So those issues are clearly there. But that's also not the bigger problem that we face, because there are internal mechanisms to deal with that. And I want to point us to the attack in Zamfara, reportedly conducted by the DSS. Kudos to the DSS for making the attempt. We would make several of such attempts. There will be some hit and miss. There will be some bullseye achievement. So what I suspect had happened was that the DSS took initiative, Because that's the remit of the DSS, really, internal security. You know, and reportedly working with some hybrid forces, cornered Bello Tunji and his group to their enclave and launched an attack. But there were some logistical issues for sake of public consumption. We cannot share some of those. So there were some operational challenges. Some were arguing that perhaps they should have collaborated more with the NA and the Air Force. But to the point you're making, matters of security are not matters you discuss open air. There's sometimes you want to have a pinpoint operation, okay, to achieve certain objectives. You may not need to go with everybody for the issues you have highlighted. You know, so I'm hoping that we'll see more of those initiatives from the DSS. You and I are able to sleep well at night because the DSS does a lot of things that never come to the fore. So we're asking them to take a bit more front foot on these issues. But importantly, the president has a lot to do. I understand there's a balance of forces doctrine. You know, you don't want to make one agency too powerful over the other. But we need to look again at the police and the DSS to fund, to tool, and to equip them. Because we are being treated as a nation. We are losing senior officers. You know what it takes us to train a colonel as a country? It takes us a lot, the amount of years. You can replace equipment, you can't replace life. So the Nigerian army is being treated, right, and we're being significantly degraded. It's time for us to reinforce and retool other sister agencies to begin to act more as a force multiplier to the Nigerian army. That's a bigger problem. And
it just ties into the reports that the police made arrests over the Yawata massacre. About 28 people were arrested. There are lots of questions to speak to in that light. But I want to go back to the point you made about this being probably crime of opportunity in that sense. And I want to just paint the scenario, maybe dive deeper into it. So you have a group of bandits, terrorists, attacking the military's forward operating base. Yeah. Now, they didn't attack a village. They didn't attack vigilantes. They didn't attack the police. They attacked the army, the military. An attack on a country's military is an attack on its sovereignty because the military is responsible for defense. It's an attack on the government, saying that I am challenging you, the government. So really, when you think about this, I want to ask again, is Nigeria at war? Now, the B of that question is, who are we at war with? Do we understand?
Okay, so you want to get me into trouble. The B, who are we at war with? We are, the A is that we are at war. Yes, we are at war. Every nation is at war because there's a war of interest, international diplomacy and politics. In that space, people's interests, national interests would be their own priority. And you've heard the Chief of Defense Staff speak about certain elements being sponsored. And we know that the Sahel is a crazed region, as it were. There's a lot of flow of ammunition and motivated actors within that region. Part of their motivation also is that Nigeria is considered one of the richest states in West Africa, so there's incentive to come down. So we cannot rule out the fact that some of these crises are engineered beyond even the West African region. So there's that possibility. You've seen some of the fallout and reactions from the Francophone countries, you know, expelling certain foreign elements within their country. I heard somebody say that Nigeria should have approved the setup of a foreign military base in Nigeria. That would have also threatened our own territorial integrity. So there are a number of actions that goes beyond the military, and you know that's where our foreign affairs ministry must play a bit more. We must be a bit more decisive in what our foreign policy is. Our problem as a country is, why would they attack the military? Because every simple problem that we have, we call in the military. Why wouldn't they attack the forward operating bases? That is what is standing between them and their objective.
So which is what?
The people.
No, I'm saying the objectives, pardon me, the objectives
yes.
of the terrorist or the bandit.
No, the
objective are challenging government.
No,
They're saying we need to take space. We need
the objective,
we need to occupy this area.
No, the objective is multi-pronged. One of the objectives of these actions you are seeing is that our food system is being degraded continuously. And if we cannot be food sufficient, how can we be a great power in Africa? Otherwise, why do you see the crisis flash up within our food belt region? Why is food expensive? Why is food scarce? If that continues, what is happening in Kenya? Why has what is happening in Kenya not happened in Nigeria? It's because some people are working. But that's the long-term objective. Imagine 200 and something million people not able to feed themselves. They will eat the government up. So again, what you're seeing is a multi-pronged objective. If you preoccupy the people and the government, they will not be able to focus on bigger issues. So I'm saying at the foreign affairs level, at the international diplomacy level, there is seemingly some effort, at play that we must counter. That's on the one hand. On why they're able to successfully attack the military, our budget is very porous for defense. I don't know if you know, there are some multinational companies that spend more on security than some state governments, and I'm not joking.
To secure their facilities?
Yes, and their interests across this country. It may be surprising to you. So
when you say porous, how do you mean? Our budget being porous?
No, I say our budget is poor. It's not poor. It's not sizable.
Okay.
Again, we have a wicked problem. There are multi-layers to it. We are not self-sufficient in armaments and ammunition. We saw a contingent of our Ministry of Defense fly out to fast-track the supply of attack helicopters to Nigeria. In procurement, most of the assets we procure, we don't get them fully supplied in the last 30 years. And even when they are supplied, they are degraded just for sake of other things. So if you keep relying on outsiders for self-sufficiency in armaments, you will never be able to fully tool. We have the Defense Industries Corporation Act. We have Federal Colleges of Technology, University of Technology. We have sound in missile systems, in armaments, across the world. You have top Nigerian scientists leading the efforts in some of these advanced systems you see outside. What is stopping us from creating our own homegrown local defense industry? Because it's also a part of the problem is equipment. In one of the operations I don't want to mention, there was no communication because terrestrial network was not available. You see, if you say, for example, you take a Super Tucano, you fire one precision-guided missile that costs you $100,000, how many of such can Nigeria afford to deploy? What is Iran doing? They take a model of the Soviet armament that they have, they backward engineer, create local capability, and they can maintain supply. How did China get to where it has gotten to? It's taking some part of armament from the US and Russia, and they've done some backward integration, and they can achieve some self-sustenance. Nigeria can't even provide even just rounds for AK-47s. We are not sufficient in that. And then we are talking about small skirmishes.
What about the cooperation that we have, Nigerian Defense?
DICOM. You see, the problem with DICOM is that, and I know that they are listening, we must deregulate DICOM like the telecom sector to bring in local funding, because it takes private sector to fuel innovation globally. State corporations cannot fuel the innovation that we need. We are seeing some good progress with Trackforce, with Innocent Motors. At least they are beginning to export. Nigeria is exporting some vehicles, but not as complex as we should be. We're talking about a domain of war where drone warfare is now priority. What are we producing in that space? You talked about intelligence and surveillance. There's ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. You see, the bigger problem for our military when they go out on fighting operation is that they are fighting blind. They don't have eyes in the sky. We've not yet perfected the art of combined arms warfare. We are still morphing, and you are facing an asymmetric force that is agile, that is mobile, that does the hit and run tactics while you are static. You need technology, and those technologies are available. Some private entities are using them to solve their own problem. In the case of Zamfara, the problem they have is not too complex. There's a certain vulnerability, and you see the DSS in this work correctly was able to pinpoint where he was and to move him. showing you that the Nigerian law enforcement can do their job if they are resourced. We've seen the law enforcement pick up Evans in a very complex operation that took months. You see, but logistics is also a bigger problem. So it's not that we cannot do the job, and I agree with you, Kyle, that it's not that the military cannot do its job. In all the foreign operations we've deployed our military to, we've always come back with very flying colors. We did work on Liberia, we did work on Sierra Leone, you know, where even a platoon commander could call for air support because the resources were there and they were lavish.
But how much money do we need? And I apologize, Bukola. You look at the Ukraine-Russia situation, you see Ukraine using cheap drones. Cheap drones. Yes, it was well planned, but they used cheap drones to cause heavy damage.
Those drones are not cheap.
On Russia. I'm saying compared to the damage that it caused on Russia. Billions of dollars worth of damage on Russia.
About $9 billion worth of dollars.
And you know how much the drones are, just maybe thousands of dollars max. It can be more than millions of dollars. No. So the point I'm trying to make is, and I think we had this conversation the last time, Mr. Dekoya, as far back as 15 plus years ago, the US was using drones in its own search for bin Laden in that sense. This is 2025, Mr. Dekoya, and we're still losing our soldiers when it is avoidable, when we could use aerial support. I mean, FPV drones. You have young people who are able to fly drones in Nigeria. And guess what? You even have private sector that is able to manufacture these drones. So what is missing? We have a budget. If we can pump this budget into that, obviously we can move a needle.
No. So what I think we need to do to move that needle is to deregulate the... We're not doing something right with DICON. You know, you can flood in... The government talks about public-private partnership every time, PPP. You know, you can open DICON. What's DICON's operating budget like? What's the share capital? You know, why is it only DICON? Why don't you have other multiple players in different sub-levels? You see, there are sub-munitions, there are different auxiliary systems to creating a local defense sector. Okay, so we are not doing that yet. But I didn't want to miss a point on this Zamfara matter. I just want to make the point that I want to commend the governor of Zamfara for making the effort. At least he is making the effort, providing tools and logistics for the forces in Zamfara. That doesn't mean that the crime stats is going down. On a year-to-year basis, the incidence of crime is going up in Zamfara. But the special operation by the DSS is something that gives me a bit of hope. And I'm hoping to see more initiative from the DSS. And I'm asking Mr. President to please release budget for police and the DSS.
Maybe we'll start from making sure police doesn't follow VIPs anymore. He promised it in his...
No, you see, yes. So that's a very fine point. Yeah. On that issue, Nigerians suffer double taxation. You pay the police as a taxpayer. When you contract the police as a private citizen, you also pay the police. So we're wasting resources. What we need to do is to, thankfully the president is thinking about private military contractorship. Move VIP protection to private licensed companies. NSCDC doesn't have enough personnel, and that's not their scope. Their scope is to protect critical national assets. Like this issue of forest guard. You don't need new forest guard when you have the NSCDC. Increase the person, cut down on the number of federal police, allow the states have state police. As a matter of fact, I said that when this president was inaugurated, that Mr. President will fail if he goes to the part of, through the part of his predecessors. The president cannot be solely responsible for internal security. The president has shown courage, he has shown the temerity and the grit to sponsor heavy reforms. Now we are calling on the president to sponsor the reform of the Nigerian police force. Until you do that and give power back to the sub-nationals. You see, when the president went to Benue, I said he shouldn't have gone. Let the governor go there on behalf of the president. Because if the president starts visiting, the president has to now visit Niger. He now has to visit Kaduna. He now has to visit Zamfara. He now has to visit Borno.
But he signed up for it.
Oh, that's what I'm telling you. So the problem is that our political class don't like having aides that tell them the truth. That's why they never hear the truth. When they all employ retinue of sycophants who tell you that, Excellency, the sun is coming out from your backside, you are the best thing that happened to us after toast bread. You know, anything the Excellency says is correct. There's nobody saying no, this is not right. There's no professional in the room calling black, black, white, white. So you just have sycophancy. He signed off to be the president of Nigeria and protect the territorial integrity and to deal with the issues that Kayode is talking about. There are external issues coming to confront our forward operating bases, which are within the remit of Mr. President. If he's too focused on local issues, he would not deal with the issues. The roots of the issues in the Sahel are external. So by the time something hits you at the rear, you know what it means to be hit at the rear. The complex attack by Ukraine on Russia was deep behind enemy line. What Israel did to Iran was deep behind enemy line. The source of the problem was not within. So all these incursions, all this damage you are seeing, a good number of them also stem from international politics. Okay? So that's on the one hand. Now, the way we are shaped, that's why I'm saying that the president should not be held to account for internal security issues. Let the president convene a national security meeting with the governors. Use his political will and leverage to insist that the governors should sponsor state police. The president alone cannot do it. That's why we must hold our governors. The last time President Buhari did it, the governors twatted it. So that if anything happens, some people can sit down in a state and conveniently say, oh, I'm just a chief security officer, I don't control. Chief logistics officer. Yeah. So give them back that authority so that when something happens, if it's in Lagos, we can
hold them responsible.
Yes, and say, Mr. Governor, this is what we elected you for.
No, but your
by all means, we must wrap up now,
just
Jeffrey.
the part of visiting the president has to do with empathizing with the people. These are his citizens.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's not beyond that, because when you don't show up about positional leadership, you look detached.
No,
when you have that number of casualties, you can't sit in Abuja.
Jeffrey, this is the bigger problem. The bigger problem is how we pay politics in Nigeria. When somebody says, oh, the president is vesting significant political will in these visits, they want to take a toll on the president's image.
We also have a time problem, Mr. Adekoya.
as we always do.
And by all means, it's been a productive conversation. I wish this were as productive as where the conversation should be holding, and that'll be behind closed doors. We must thank you very much, Mr. Adekoya, for your time. Mr. Adekoya is a security expert, intelligence expert, and surveillance expert.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And from here, we move on to party politics. What's happening in the PDP? Stay with us for this next conversation. We'll be right back.